my name is Tarika and I'm the author of this book, The Asthma Cure, and we will be sharing information about which whole grains are good for our lungs. So let's begin with what exactly are whole grains. Whole grains are the whole grain food which is grown from earth and comes from the farmer to our table, right? Now this is the whole grain which is not tampered by man, which is not polished off, which is not ground, no chemicals added, no additives added. It's the actual whole grain. Whole grains have the energy of healing. Why? Because it is the seed as well as the fruit of the plant. So it's the seed which you sow into the ground and it gives back 1,000 grains back, and it is also the fruit that you eat. For example, brown rice or wheat, right? One kernel of brown rice or wheat is what you sow to create 1,000 kernels of brown rice and wheat. Similarly, we also eat the brown rice and wheat, cook it in our kitchens and eat it on our plate. So it is the seed and the fruit. It has an entire cycle, life cycle, which is very rejuvenating for our cells and tissues and our entire body and being. Like I said, when we sow brown rice or any whole grain, it gives back 1,000 grains to us. Whereas when we sow something like bread or pasta or roti or anything that's been ground and is no longer in its whole position, in its whole condition, it doesn't give back that much, because that's not going to give you back fasal, that's not going to give you back the whole grain. Where it's the same effect as it has in the ground that it has in our body, earth and our body, right? So it's the same effect that it has in our body. So it rejuvenates and it replenishes our cells, our tissues, our organs, our blood, everything. It just creates health. Wherever there is stagnation happening, wherever there are toxins held in the body, it rejuvenates us in a way to push out and detox. So you know how people talk about let's go on a detox diet and let's do this and let's do that. The very basic and important thing about a detox diet is we simply need to include whole grains in our diet and remove things that are overly processed from our diet, because things that are processed and chemicals have been added are no longer food. That's no longer food, that's just a food product. So now let's talk about all the different grains that we have in India. We are lucky to have such a large variety of grains. For example, brown rice. Brown rice is also known as the king of grains. And brown rice, there's a variety of brown rice that we have. We have many varieties of medium grain rice as well as we have long grain rice. So for example, brown basmati rice is actually a long grain rice. It is lighter, easier to cook, and it's lovely for the summertime, whereas like a short grain or a medium grain rice is usually better for the autumn time or even winter time. It gives you more strength. For somebody suffering with a lung problem, or perhaps anybody who's healthy but wants to simply improve their lung health, brown rice is highly recommended to have on a regular basis. We also have red rice, which is higher in protein for those who are worried about their protein intake. We also have black rice. Now, black rice is basically darker in color because it has more minerals, and giving our body more nutrients and minerals helps improve the body's ability to assimilate the other foods that we eat, as well as the ability to eliminate what we don't need. And that's what we're trying to create with eating healthy. What we're creating is basically getting our body back to its original state, to its original state where it could absorb things well and it could eliminate things well. People who fall sick, people who have different health issues, is basically the body has stopped absorbing the nutrients from the food that they eat and is stopped eliminating, either because there is inflammation or because a certain organ has been affected more, or simply because they have excess in their body. And if they have excess in the body, it's basically the body is not able to use detox as well. So this is about the rice. And then in India we also have a lot of millets, and we have for example we have ragi, which is called finger millet, very high in calcium, very good for the bones in the body, nervous system as well. We have bajra, which is the darker millet, which is also very good. Bajra is better to use in the winter time than in the summertime. Then we have lots of lighter colored millets. So for example, we have kodo millet. Now kodo millet is a very light millet. It's almost something you can use in your kitchen even to make upma, and it replaces suji in a very nice way, especially for those who are sensitive to gluten or have a sensitive digestion. I would highly recommend to have kodo millet rather than upma made from kodo millet rather than from suji. And then we have barnyard millet, and we have foxtail millet, and we have pearl millet. So we have all these varieties of millets which, because of their size and shape and where they're grown and the soil in which they come from, the region that they come from, have a different effect on our health. For example, foxtail millet is a little more stronger than say kodo millet or barnyard millet, which also cook quickly. They cook quickly and they're lighter on digestion. Foxtail millet will give you more strength, more stability. It really helps the entire organ system and the digestion. And so this is a range of millets. Then we have barley. So we have whole barley. Then we have whole barley cracked, which is barley dalia. So just like we have wheat dalia, we also have barley dalia. Similarly, we have pearl barley. So pearl barley has just a few layers off, but it makes it really helps in the kitchen to make lovely soups, lovely salads, and it's very usable in many ways, even risotto. And then we also have cracked pearl barley, which is very easy and quick to cook, and for people who are starting out, that's an easy soft grain to begin with. Then we have buckwheat, which is buckwheat gross, which is basically kuttu. So you know how in the fasting in India we have a lot of kuttu atta ka roti, and we have samve ke chawal, which is actually barnyard millet. So all of these things basically are, the fasting period is basically meant for the extra mucus. They're drying on the body, and they're meant to pull out the extra mucus in the body and create less, reduce the inflammation in the body. But I think in modern times, when all of us are suffering so much from so many different diseases, and the lifestyle has just gone on for so many years that we don't even understand anymore what is whole grains and what is a good lifestyle and how often we should be having these things. But I think it's good to introduce those things more often into our diet. However, I would say for kuttu, we don't want to have it too often. We want to have it about once a week, unless you're under the guidance of a special, nutrition counselor who will help you with that. It's better to have it more in the winter time. And then we have other grains like amaranth, super grains like amaranth, as well as quinoa. Now, amaranth and quinoa are power-packed, potent whole grains. You have a little bit and they give you a lot of energy. It's as my days go along and I'm working, the days that I have amaranth in my food, I just feel so much more energy, and I'm just like, where did I get that energy from? And I realized that I've been eating amaranth more that week, and so that's how much more energy you get from your food. And literally what you eat, creates a certain digestion, creates a certain blood quality, and gives you the quality of energy that you have to go through your days. So we also have corn dalia. So corn dalia, as they call, in modern days, a lot of people are making fancy foods like polenta and everything. You can really just make it right at home with using your corn dalia. And so let's talk about the grains that are very healing for our lungs. So when a person has a problem with the lungs, basically there is excess phlegm production in the body, and so we want to have foods that pull out the excess mucus in the lungs in the body. Also, a person suffering from problems with their lungs have a certain kind of weakness happening in the lungs. They're just very fragile and weak, and so to help improve from that fragility and weakness, we also need grains that create structure and strength. And structure and strength comes from fiber in our food. So the fiber in the food becomes the the structure in the whole grain, which is fiber, helps build our structure and strength. Not like you have it one day and you'll have structure and strength in your body, but I'm talking about over the months, over the years, over the decade. When you have, more whole grains, that's what begins to happen deep within. Your energy changes. And so the grain that's associated with lung health, even according to natural, a transformation theory, is brown rice. So having brown rice on a regular basis and having the creamier millets, the lighter colored millets which are creamy, not ragi and bajra are also great, but having the lighter millets helps a lot. And also having buckwheat in smaller quantity, but definitely including it into our diet. And a certain amount of barley, because barley is also known to pull out mucus from our body. It pushes out old fat from animal protein, old fat from dairy. Barley has a tendency to push that out of the body. So to include that into your diet here and there as well, maybe like a few times a week. So different kinds of rice along with a little bit of black rice, creamier colored millets, having more barley, and a little bit of kuttu in your diet. These are the 4 grains which will really help rejuvenate your lungs, give them strength, as well as help to pull out the excess mucus, which when builds over a period of time creates more blockages. So we also have wheat. Just like brown rice is known as the king of grains, wheat is known as the queen of grains, and it has its healing properties. Even though many people feel wheat is not good for them, and yes, if your digestion is sensitive, we want to have the better quality wheat. So I would advise having kafli wheat and having it only in certain forms, but not overdoing it. But wheat does nourish certain organs, and my grandmom used to say wheat gives you like aate se to taakat aati hai. So that's it's something that's giving strength to the body as well. However, the frequency of how often you would have it can again be according to nutritional guidance that you get from somebody, but definitely not to omit wheat completely from the diet. So that's about whole grain.